Hello everyone, my name is Loko and welcome to some more StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void. Now recently I've been reading a couple of comments from you guys saying, oh my god, Loko is playing super cheesy and he only does these gimmicky strategies. And honestly, it seems like I've been uploading a lot of those kind of videos to YouTube, right? But honestly, in like 90% of my games, I feel like I play pretty much just straight up full-on macro. But the matter of fact, you know, I've been doing this sort of stuff for a very long time, so I feel like I've also uploaded a lot of macro games to the YouTubes already. So, you know, recently I've been focusing a lot more on like gimmicky strategies with the Overlord drops and the Baneling drops and then the Nidus all-ins and all kinds of really cool strategies that I work on. But I haven't really been uploading any kind of macro games. So this is by far the most standard macro game that I could find. Obviously there's going to be a couple of Legacy of the Void aspects. But in this game I'm going to be focusing on Muta, Ling and Bane. And eventually my plan would be to actually transition towards Ultralisk, Adrenal Glands, Chitinous Plating, the whole shebang. So this is like a super standard Zerg versus Terran right here. I'm gonna try and watch this entire game from my point of view, give you my perspective, and try and talk about the things that I was thinking about while playing this game, so hopefully you could get a little bit more insight. Now, honestly though, I think I play like 90% macro games. In most scenarios, I barely ever cheese, and I feel like whenever I do cheese, it doesn't really work out very well. So for those of you that actually watch the live stream regularly, you will know that I mostly play macro. But hey, for the YouTubes, I guess it is time to play a little bit more macro-oriented styles with less cheese and less gimmicks. So here we go. Zerg versus Terran, a guy named 4IR. He plays Terran, which makes no sense. Because you would say that's a Protoss player. But as you can see, I opened up with a hatchery into a spawning pool into a gas geyser. No weird shenanigans here whatsoever. Now what my opponent is gonna go for is gonna be siege tank drops into like marine bio medevac siege tank mine, if I'm not mistaken. At the very least, he does some early game drops, and that's honestly the standard right now in macro games in Zerg versus Terran. Pretty much most of the Terran players are going for this style where they go for the siege tank drops. Not so much just because it's super powerful and obnoxious to deal with Zerg, because I feel like it's okay to deal with. But mostly because it actually stops all kinds of all-ins from the Zerg player. So you know how Zerg has like the new drop mechanic, the new Nidus worm, all these kind of things. Without the siege tank drop or without having the siege tank out, it is very difficult to hold those kind of all-ins, and it may actually be nearly impossible. So a lot of people are instead opening up with like a medevac and a siege tank, start dropping those siege tanks in the mineral lines and, you know, outside of the mineral lines, and just be obnoxious with it. And, you know, that seems to be, for the most part, the standard. Now, what I used to do a lot when Legacy of the Void first came out is stack up to a super quick lair, get those Mutalisks going, because once the Mutalisks come out, you basically shut down the tanks together as well, right? The only problem with that being is that you don't really have a very strong economy, and since most of Terran players are still opening up with triple command center, it is very difficult to, you know, stay ahead, economically speaking. Now, it turns out that if you try hard enough, and my opponent's actually building a bunker at my third base right here, just being annoying. If you try hard enough, it is relatively easy to deal with the siege tank drops. You just have to sit back for a while and just position your queens and the Zerglings properly. If you do it smartly, you're all good to go. Now, so far, I saw that my opponent right there had a couple of Marines out. I've been seeing a couple of Terran players go for like weird Marine timing attacks, where they don't actually like have a necessary, or they don't have necessarily an upgrade done or whatever. So, you know, I do decide to make a big group of Zerglings right now just to defend that potential aggression, but also because Zergling speed is just about to finish up, and I really do want to take map control right now. Now, as you can see, I've really not mined very much gas of anything. I just got the 100 gas going for the Zergling speed, and very shortly, I'm gonna start transitioning towards the third base. So as you will notice, I've not really focused very much of anything at like, you know, gas just yet. And I'm only gonna start adding that on right now. Now, eventually, like I mentioned, I do want to go for the +1/+1, the Banelings, the Mutalisk, and all those kind of things. But I'm not necessarily rushing them out. So I'm looking right there at my army, or at my opponent's army. He seems to be remaking a bunker right there. So I'm sort of assuming right now he is gonna go indeed for the siege tank drops. Even though I haven't seen that my opponent is, you know, going for the siege tank drops, just the sheer fact of my opponent, you know, having a bunch of bio out there to stop any kind of aggression, and then also having a bunker making right now. I mean, if he would go for a Stimpack timing attack or something like that, right, he wouldn't be going for the bunker at all at this timing. So, for the moment, I'm allowed to start teching up. I'm allowed to get the Evo chambers going, and I can definitely just keep on making drones and focus a lot on creep spread. Now, creep spread is one of these things that I've been trying to work on a lot more recently. I've been trying to dedicate 2 queens in both Zerg vs Terran and Zerg vs Protoss to creep spreading. And it's a very tough thing. Like, it's one of those things that you can easily slack out on, right? It's one of those things that usually is very low on the priority list. However, if you don't have any creep spread, it's going to be very difficult to win any kind of engagements. So I've been focusing a lot more on that, and I've been trying to improve my creep spread. I don't know exactly if it turned out very well in this game, but it's okay. So for the moment, I am getting my Baling Nest up. I should be going for a lair right now as well, but I'm already going for the macro hatchery right now, just because I am pretty heavy into the Zerglings. The idea behind the Zerglings, by the way, is that when you get adrenal glands going, by the way, we see the siege tank drop right there, but once you get adrenal glands at the lair, you will be able to start dealing with the units very, very easily. And because you do have the option to go for drops and whatnot early on, you don't actually have to tech up super fast either. So I'm getting the macro hatch right now, knowing that, you know, I'm likely going to be sticking around with a couple more Zerglings and Banelings, and I don't really want to be making anything but Zerglings and Banelings, so I'm definitely going to need the larva. So when dealing with these kind of drops, what you want to do as a Zerg player is just try and zone the siege tank out with your units, and then grab the queens or whatever and target fire down the medevac. Usually the siege tank doesn't actually achieve a whole lot, but if you get like halfway across the damage on the medevac, it becomes very scary for the Terran player. So right now, whenever I can, you know, I will do a little bit of damage, just trying to target fire down whatever I can, but I'm mainly just joining up behind this. And that's the main thing about these siege tank drops. You need to just keep on going with the strategy that you have, and you need to keep on macroing. You can't be focused on only defending right here, because, you know, then you will just start falling behind way too much. And I think that's the main thing that Zerg players will need to get used to. It's like, you know, the multitasking. While the siege tank drops are going on, you still want to be macroing, still want to be making drones, still want to be scouting, still want to be, you know, producing stuff, still hitting queen injects and all those kind of things. It is just like an additional annoyance to deal with, I suppose. It's sort of like Reaper play early on in StarCraft 2 as well, where, you know, you just have to deal with them. Now I am making a Spore Crawler right there as well. Also adding on a Spine Crawler just to deal with any kind of drops later on into the game. But most importantly, I am right now getting my Mutalisk going as well. So the Spire is about halfway done right now, making sure that I got the Baneling speed as well. And I haven't actually started my +1. Did I even start my +1/+1? Yeah, I did finish up. I was gonna say. I haven't started +2/+2 yet. The reason for that, obviously, I thought for a second I didn't even start +1/+1. I've never noticed it on the production tab. But anyway, obviously you do want to try and get +2/+2 going as soon as possible as well. It's always a bit of a trade-off whether or not you want to save up more gas, get more Mutalisk immediately, or if you want to go for the faster upgrades. In Heart of the Swarm, I tend to wait a little bit longer, get the Mutalisk going first, just because it's so hard to transition towards a Hive. But in Legacy of the Void, it's a little easier to do exactly that, and I feel like it's okay to go for the double upgrades first and then, you know, switch it up. So right now I have a couple of Zerglings in every base, okay? I got the Zerglings right here that are gonna be dealing with this drop just fine. Well, you know, that base is gonna go down, but I got a couple of Zerglings right now at the third base to deal with any kind of obnoxious Terran drops as well with the siege tank. And I had the queens in the main base to just sort of zone out this medevac right here, and he does end up falling, so that's very nice. At the meantime, you know, I'm just making sure that my army is split up. If I have my army all in one big clump, this would be extremely hard to stop. But like I mentioned, you know, you need to make sure that you're microing against this sort of stuff. And at this point, my Mutalisk come out and I am safe and, you know, good to go. At this point, I'm feeling pretty confident, knowing that my opponent is only just now flying over his third command center towards his third base. So, you know, I know that I have a much superior economy. My opponent has been trying out about a gazillion different ways to deal damage to me, and while he sniped in, you know, he sniped my building fourth base, I mean, in the end, we, you know, lost 5 workers, and we still have a massive advantage right here. So my opponent decided to commit a ton into getting a lot of damage done. He didn't really get very much damage done at all because I was just macroing behind it and just ensuring the fact that I, you know, had enough units and just making sure that I hit all of my queen injects and whatnot. And right now, I'm making out for a very, very nice timing attack. So if you have a quick look at the upgrades, I'm getting the +1 flyer upgrades, right? I'm getting the +2/+2 as well. And whenever those kind of upgrades finish, you have a beautiful moment to actually try and do a little bit of damage. So right now, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for +2/+2 to finish. I'm waiting for the +1 attack to finish, or at the very least, I'm certain I will. And I am also just morphing in more Banelings, making sure I have the Banelings on a separate hotkey as well as on the main hotkey, and just trying to pick off whatever I can right here. A couple of Marauders, definitely worth it. just producing more and more stuff right now. And as you can see, my macro has been pretty spot on, not really floating very much, whereas my opponent got distracted by the aggression that he was doing himself. And, you know, he started losing a lot of stuff, but here we go. Gonna be rolling in with my main army, making sure that they surround the Marauders first, splitting off the Banelings into, like, the juicy Marines, and my opponent decides to say, well played, and tap out of the game. So this is definitely much more of a macro-focused game than any of the other ones. I can also obviously upload games that are even longer than this one, but this seems to be the majority of my games right here. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know. Give me some feedback down below of what you really enjoy seeing, so I know what to update or what to upload to the YouTubes next. But other than that, I want to thank you guys all for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, and I'll see you in the next one.